Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Retaining, Training and Recruiting into Modern Methods of Construction, or otherwise known as MMC session. Welcome and glad you can join us. My name is Mark Southgate. I am Chief Executive of an organisation called MOBI. That's the Ministry of Building Innovation and Education, and we exist for a charity focused on getting young people into the built environment and trying to improve the quality of homes with a lean towards modern methods of construction. Today I'm joined by a really brilliant panel who are all experts in this field with different perspectives. So I'll be handing over to them shortly. This session is brought to you by Bristol Housing Festival and also the Workforce for the Future project. MOBI, along with Bristol Housing Festival and YTKO, are doing a bit of work for the West of England Combined Authority, looking at modern methods of construction and specifically how do you bring small and medium enterprises, SMEs, into the sector, and what skills do they need to join the sector and become more actively involved. So that's hence why the Workforce for the Future is focused on this. But that's less from me. Other than one other thing, I'm also a director of the Offsite Alliance, and I lead the skills work stream of the Offsite Alliance. So I guess that's another reason why I've been asked to share this session. But I'm going to hand over to each of the members of the panel in turn, and they're going to spend sort of 4 or 5 minutes talking about their organisation and their perspective on skills. And when that's done, we'll then go to some general questions and pick up some themes for the discussion, and they can challenge or talk to each other around their different perspectives. So we're going to start with Ben Hodder. So Ben Hodder's the Dean of Faculty for Construction at Weston College. So I will just hand over to you, Ben, and you can tell the audience a bit more about you and about what Weston's doing on this side, obviously with a particular focus on colleges and their perspective on this.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm from a slightly unique background. You know, I've working in the educational sector, so I sit alongside the construction industry, and for me, really, to be to engage with industry, I need to be proactive rather than reactive. So the first thing I'd like to say is if you are a construction company, please do engage with your local college or your local training provider. We get all of our information through our assessors on the ground. We put together information forums so employers can be part of that. So we're having to put together this big jigsaw puzzle all the time to try and figure out what we're doing. And with MMC in particular, it's looking at how we raise the bar of construction. It's promoting the construction pathway all the way from school level all the way up through. And it's, you know, it's not kind of the old school thought process of, well, I didn't do very well at school, so therefore if I'm going to be in construction. It's making sure that those pathways, defined pathways, are there right from the beginning. This is a, you know, very attractive industry. It moves at a rate of knots. You know, technology comes into play all the time. So I need to make sure that us as a college and my team of experts are up to date. We're trying to support industry. We want to be able to work with industry, and here at Weston College, we're really thinking how we deliver differently. We realise that industry probably can't afford to lose a member of their team for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So we're looking at how we can do more unitized approach, how we can come to you into the workplace and support that delivery. Do you need to do a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year course? Can we put it together through a modular route by doing top-up qualifications? Can we get you your management qualifications or those ancillary qualifications that can have quite a quick turnaround that can be done in the workplace, but really bring the next level to your workforce for you? So going back to my original statement is, you know, please engage with your local training provider and help that local provider be able to really see the industry in that local area, because that will have massive benefits a little bit later down the line for you in your for your sector.
Great, Ben, thanks very much. Yeah, and I'd absolutely echo that. As part of the Offsite Alliance working group I mentioned, we've set up a subgroup which is made up of colleges and private industry training providers who are focused on MMC or considering doing modern methods of construction. And one of the key issues coming out as the industry to college connection is absolutely vital, particularly in this area which is moving so quickly. It's hard enough, even if you're in it, it's hard enough to keep pace with what's happening, and it's even harder when you're in the education sector and slightly diverse. So if any colleges are interested in joining that, it's free to join, and it's literally a connection piece that all those colleges who are working on MMC can talk to each other and find out what each other is doing. So we'll maybe pick that theme up later on in terms of that industry college connection later on, Ben. Okay, I'll hand over to Rianne Newman now. Rianne is a specialist recruiter at Thornbaker, the recruitment consultants, and focuses on particularly the MMC sector. So I guess from you, Rianne, as well as an introduction, I'd be really interested to hear what you're seeing as a specialist recruiter in this area. What are the current trends, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. As Mark said, I've actually been recruiting in the offsite sector for about 13 years now, in construction overall for about 17. What I can say is the market is incredibly buoyant at the moment. It's a nice place to be in that regard. There's something going on all over the country, all over the world, and we're certainly getting inquiries from not just all across the UK, but in the Middle East and Australia and New Zealand, which is great. However, there is a huge lack of candidates at the moment. This is probably the worst that I've seen it in my years within the offsite sector. I'd say particularly on the design and commercial side, but also looking, even going back to the sort of shop floor staff and the operatives, that there is a definite skill shortage. And just to echo what Ben said, you know, if you can engage with local providers that can help upskill people into MMC, then please go ahead and do that, because we do need the candidates. There does seem to be a reluctance to do that upskilling piece of work from a lot of the big manufacturers. I find that there is a lot of talk around it, but there's not much action around it at the moment. Also, I'd say a reluctance to kind of look at talent pools from other industry sectors, ex-offenders, ex-military. Again, there's lots of talk for positive change, but there doesn't seem to be that much action, and that's what I'd like to see sort of changing over the next sort of 12 months, if possible.
Brilliant, thanks, Rianne. Yes, that issue of the shortage of labour across all sectors is a really acute one at the moment, and those who know construction will know construction has not necessarily the best image in the world and has traditionally struggled to attract young talent anyway. So maybe I'm putting the panel on stand now. I might come back with a question around what benefits does MMC have in relation to construction more widely in terms of its ability to attract young people. But just consider yourself ready for that question later on, everybody. I'll hand over now to Mark Bauer, who is with Legal and General Modular Homes. And Mark, perhaps if you can, as well as introducing yourself, just say what Legal and General Modular Homes, L&G Homes, is doing in relation to offsite training and bringing on young people. You're on mute, Mark.
Sorry, apologies.
All right, no webinar would be complete without that moment.
Yeah, had to be me. Yeah, so my name is Mark Bauer. I'm Technical Training Manager for Legal and General Modular Homes. Sort of my background is FE predominantly. I've worked in construction as well. I used to work at Leeds College Building, and I've moved across to be the Technical Training Manager at Legal and General at the moment. So what we're doing as a business at the moment, we are developing sustainable homes for people, and we are basically covering the full aspect. So we are acquiring the land and then developing the land, creating modular homes, and then delivering them and installing them on site. So what I want to talk about a little bit is what we're doing in terms of skills development. So first of all, I think I'd like to talk about the Modular Academy. So this was set up around about 4 years ago, and the intended purpose really was to support and develop the workforce and the skills and behaviours required by our business. So Legal and General will welcome anybody into the business, whether they're fully qualified trade professionals or people who have little to no experience in either manufacturing or construction. The Academy team will support them through a 12-month development program that's been set up to give them the skills needed to work in the production population. So it initially starts with a real understanding of what MMC is, how we differ from traditional construction methods, and what the purpose and business goals we have as a business. So once they've got a good grasp on that, we move on to health and safety. You know, that's a real sort of keystone delivery point that we have. People are coming from having no experience, potentially working in a shop all their life, to coming into a very busy manufacturing environment. And then we want to develop their understanding of the quality and the design process that goes in place, so they have a real understanding of what they're doing before they actually start the physical activities on the line. We then do something called a skill scan. So we're actually looking for previous experience, be that DIY, doing something in their own home, or whether they've actually worked in a construction environment. And then we try to place them on our lines to meet their best, to meet the needs of what they've done in the past. Now, if they haven't done that, they haven't got any skills, it really doesn't matter. So we then go on and we develop their specific skills for the stations that they're going on. So, for example, if we pick a station on one of the lines, it may be installation of plasterboard and aluminium stub work. So those are the skills that we'll develop initially. And we work right through from the initial tool training to process training and understanding working drawings and documentation that they'll need to understand in order to develop our product. So once they've completed this, we then transition them onto the line, and then they're supported again in terms of line trainers and a buddy system of experienced employees. And then we enroll them onto a qualification. So part of what we're trying to do is not only develop the essential skills that they have, but also grow them as individuals. So we enroll them on a level 1 EAL qualification. So we're an accredited centre now to deliver that, and we've recently attained direct claim status as well. And this really helps us deliver a real flexible programme that supports the needs of all our employees around their working day. I think that's what's really important as well is to remember that it's not just the practical skills that we're supporting for the actual implementation and building of the modules, but it's also all the supportive structures behind that. So logistics, CNC, our movement teams, there's quite an eclectic mix of sectors that fit together to do what we do as a business. So the Academy is there to support and develop those individuals as well, and also give people opportunity to move into those sectors out of the production population if that's what they choose to do. We've currently got an extensive apprentice program that goes right across all sectors in the business. Most recently, we've taken on 3 apprentices for our site teams. We really want to run the CIAO standard, which has been developed specifically for MMC, and we are working with colleges up and down the country to try and support us in that. It's a very new qualification, and the infrastructure that needs to be in place to deliver that is quite new to the colleges as well. I'm seeing Ben nodding there. So, we're there to try and support the colleges as well and really get this off the ground. And I think, why is it important for legal in general to have such an extensive training provision? And I think that comes down to, we take great satisfaction in creating new opportunities for people that ultimately wouldn't have had the chance to come into this environment and offer, in some aspects, a complete career change for people that are fully supported, very much like an apprentice program. They get to develop their skills and learn and gain a qualification at the same time as working. But also, the vision of our company is to make the housing market fair for all by supplying affordable, sustainable and high-performing homes to our customers. And to do this, we need to have the right skills and behaviours across all sectors in our business to support one another and ultimately achieve our goals.
Brilliant, thank you, Mark. And you got a little round of applause there around the career switching and learning new skills from Rianne. And actually, there may be an element of assumed knowledge around modern methods of construction. It's very much a process, and we're thinking about skills throughout that process. So that's skills at design stage, skills at the manufacturing stage when we're building those homes in factories. Then the logistics of getting, be it panels or whole modules to site. then the groundworks that you need and the precision around those groundworks to then install those, and then anything to do with finishing off assembly, etc. There's a whole range of different skills, but I guess the most important thing is thinking about how the process and how that's different. And again, I might come back and answer that question. Right, now over to Chris Bone. Chris is the founder and CEO of Modulus. And maybe, Chris, if you can pick up in your introduction, sort of in relation to how you do build homes in an MMC way, what that means in terms of the skills and how you're addressing that.
Mark, thank you very much. As Mark's just said, I'm Chris Boone. I'm co-founder and CEO of Modulus. Since being invited to join this discussion, I've given a lot of thought to the subject. And my perspective on recruiting, retraining and retraining in MMC space is actually no different to any other business. I think we need to look at this through a slightly different lens. Today, just a little bit of background. Modulus is a London-based technology startup backed by US, Canadian and European venture capital with a view to delivering a platform that will empower the real estate to solve the housing crisis and whilst protecting the planet. And there are two major crises that we as a world have to find a way to solving. And what do I actually mean by that? Well, we're building a suite of technology products that enables the design and delivery of affordable and sustainable homes at scale and pace globally, whilst we ensure we deliver homes that have a positive impact on the environment and are healthy for their occupants. And one of the key aspects to this model is the assembly of volumetric modules by the contractor locally to the site using local labour. We onboard and train and oversee the team to deliver the modules, helping to stimulate that local economy, avoiding sending large trucks of boxes around the country. They're expensive and they emit a lot of carbon. And we've developed a system that can be delivered flat locally and then assembled close to the site. So how do we recruit, retrain and retain talent in the MMC industry? There's a number of key aspects I believe that every leader in the MMC space has got to take into consideration to do this successfully. The first is purpose. Everybody needs purpose in what they do. You need to know why you're here and what your role is in achieving it and what the bigger picture objective is. And then we need to align that purpose across everybody in the business so that everybody's pulling in the same direction for the same outcome. I had a bit of a Google around, and one of the best stories to exemplify this was during a tour of NASA's headquarters. Apparently in 1961, John F. Kennedy encountered a janitor mopping the floors, and when he asked him, "Why are you working so late, Mr. President?" the janitor responded, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." Everybody at every level in the business must be aligned with that purpose in order for the outcome to be successfully achieved. And there's many other necessities as well that create a high performance culture. There's trust, allowing people to fail, allowing them to fail and then learn from their mistakes and then go again. And if we don't make mistakes, we'll never learn. That curbs innovation. The working environment is also key. We have to provide people a workplace, a platform from which to perform, and that there will be almost definitely more productive and successful outcome if we get that right as well. And making the work interesting. If work is repetitive, then create circumstances where people swap roles to keep the work varied and keep them interested. You also then build a team of multifunctional operatives who can switch roles when needed, which de-risks the business and potentially improves the performance as well. And I think last but not least, something that we all forget to do is to show the team the results, whatever level they are in the business and whatever their individual roles are in that business. There's nothing more motivating than seeing that together you made a difference and what your individual contribution was to that outcome. And with these actions, I believe we can create fulfillment within the team. It's often referred to in business as flow. And I looked up the definition of flow, and it's a blissful state of balance where you're fully immersed in a task, completely free from distracting thoughts. The state of flow enables you to enjoy your work and perform at the peak of your potential. Research shows that working in the state of flow, you're 5 times more productive than you'd be otherwise. When we have our teams reach this collectively, they're not only productive, but they're fulfilled. They're happy in their role. And it's far easier then to retain that workforce. But actually attracting talent becomes easier as well. And this applies at every level across the business, whether it's in the design office, the shop floor, or in the tech development team. No one has actually yet chosen to leave Modulus since we set out in this journey in 2018. I'm not saying we've got this perfect, but as a team, we believe in where we're going and we're all working to get there together. And as the weeks go on, that makes it easier to actually start to recruit better talent and then retain that talent for a positive outcome. And this can be applied to all aspects in MMC to ensure that we attract, we recruit, we train and retain the best talent in this space. And I think that's as fundamentally as important as focusing on the individual skills and competencies of the workforce.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. Really interesting perspective there, and I particularly like your point around learning from mistakes, allow mistakes to happen, then learn from them. That this is potentially controversial, but I don't think the construction industry in its traditional form is very good at doing continuous improvement and learning from mistakes. We see snagging on housing sites over and over again. And that's A, wasteful, and B, it doesn't show that learning environment and that improvement environment. So I think it'd be interesting to come back and explore that. And again, that's maybe where MMC differentiates slightly from others. Right, over to our final panelist who's been waiting patiently, John O'Brien. John O'Brien's technical lead at Tempo Housing. So yeah, I'll throw over to you, John, and maybe tell us a bit about Tempo Housing and again, your perspective on skills, and then we'll throw it open to the rest of the panel.
Thank you. Just to give a background of what Tempo Housing get up to, our approach is around volumetric housing. So there's they are units that turn up to site with the most amount of finishes done. So there's very little work to do that we'd have to control on the quality control once we arrive on site. We have a heavy focus on affordable housing. This is my wife says if it's 30% affordable, does that mean it's 70% unaffordable? I say, yeah, you're pretty well right there. So we want to make sure we're hitting these targets on housing numbers, helping. There's it's going to be a joint effort. There's no one solution, and we have great opportunity to do lots of different things, and then monitor them and see how we go and see how do we perform against our peers and the like. We've gone from a fabric first approach. We don't want to generate more energy than we need. We want to stop losing energy and losing heat, and but also looking at things like overheating as well, and the comfort levels that making sure that we're warnings today of 1.5 degrees from the scientists. So we've got to make sure that our buildings are fit for purpose for the future as well. So we insulate them not just to keep the cold out, but to keep the heat out as well. So that's key. And we've gone down a route of standardization of products because we want to be able to see we can get those efficiencies in the factory. We're not for everyone. We can't do round things and triangular things and that, but we can still make a scheme that has an impact and is looks good as well. And also making sure that our units are adaptable. Why make a percentage of them adaptable? Why not make them all laid out to we have an aging population. More people are going to need to be able to have adaptable housing in the future. So why shouldn't we be building everything from now on with that in mind? And of course, then we want to make for the net zero carbon we can provide by reducing the energy to a minimum. Then we've got to make sure we're providing a renewable solution as well, which we can sell to our customers and show the benefits. So my background is from, I'm a building surveyor. So I spent a lot of my life looking at existing buildings and learning from that and saying, well, you normally had an address and that was about all you knew about the property and you had to go along and diagnose it. So there's a high level of skills involved with going along saying, what's wrong with this property? Why is it failing? What can we do to maintain it? And again, we've got to make sure the properties that are coming through now, we have a good maintenance strategy on that. So we've gone down the digital route, the BIM route, making sure we've got good records that we can give our clients so they know what they've got and how to maintain it over the next 60, 100 years. And there's going to be a learning process for people with the skills to say, how do we adapt to this digital approach, but also making sure it's secure as well. You've got to make sure people can't access those records and they're part of that asset management of the stock. We don't talk about de-skilling. We almost want to reskill people or upskill people because we know there's a skills crisis in the industry and we try to bring people through, but it is a very changeable market at the moment. When I used to recruit back in the day, it was a challenge then, and I haven't recruited for about 15 years, but just getting surveyors and people of the right caliber to come in and look after your stock was difficult. So we tended to look at people who had degrees in what we'd call the transferable skills. We'd say either you've come through a train and you want to go into a management role, you might have done a degree in media or business studies, or one thing I did, disaster management, which could be appropriate. And we gave them the opportunities to do day release and evening classes and whatever to support them, but while we couldn't lose that sort of skill as well. So there's going to be a whole lesson for us to sort of upskill people and say, what does it involve, all this new approach? How do we get the new stock to benefit the existing stock so we can tackle the carbon emissions from those homes and buildings as well? So I think there's a lot of joining up we still have to do. It's good to work with Bristol because they've got a positive attitude towards it. And I agree with Chris on saying you've got to have a reason to be doing this. It's not about saying, well, we can, it'll help the bottom line or whatever. We've got to say what's our purpose, and we work with people who we can trust, and we are invested really. So yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities in what we're doing there. Thanks.
Brilliant, thank you, everybody. Thanks, panel. A really good introduction. So I'm going to pick up quite a few themes coming out of what you've been talking about, but probably I'm going to pick up where you just left off, John, in relation to the skills. So what do you think are the top skills that people coming into industry, particularly MMC side of it, need from your perspectives? So what skills do they need for the future in the industry? And I'll throw it open to the panel. So just it's free for all. Who wants to go first? Rianne.
Yeah, I can go. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a wide variety of skills that are needed in the market. It is like I said, there is a huge lack of candidates on the design side, particularly. But then it's not just that. I think trying to educate people about the younger generation about offsite much earlier, because I still think a lot of people leaving college or at school, they don't know what offsite construction is. They just think there's traditional construction and there's no other thing. So I do think it's really important to start working with the likes of schools, to start working with the likes of Moby and doing more competitions, national competitions around building, making something using Lego and getting the kids engaged, or using Minecraft and just trying to find things that are relatable to them. I do think as well, you've got to look at the trade side of things. Trades, there's a skill shortage on trades no matter what area of construction you're in, whether you're in MMC or traditional construction. From current experience, the rates on some of these tradespeople is becoming absolutely ridiculous, some of the money that they're asking for. So the more we can get those type of people, the people that are interested in doing carpentry, painting, roofing, joining, welding, steel fixing, anything like that, and just kind of re-educating them that it doesn't have to be on a cold, wet construction site where they're moving around from different places and different sites. They can be in a nice warm factory, they can have a fixed place of work, and still do their trade. So I do think there does need to be more re-education around the fact that the MMC market, I think, does offer a safer environment. It is more inclusive. Companies that I certainly work with are making a concerted effort to work with associations such as Black People in Construction or the LGBTQ community as much as they can. And I think the next generation do want to know and feel that they are in a safe place where they have that ability to be themselves and to express exactly who they are.
Thanks, Rianne. Ben, did you want to come in on a college perspective on this, maybe?
Yeah, firstly, I'd pick up on something John said. You know, it's getting that right caliber of person. It's not about just filling that role. And a lot of feedback we're getting from employers in our local area is, you know, talking about some of the real basic behaviors and attitudes that are missing through what's happened over the past years. So we're having to spend a lot of time to go back and reinstall some of those behaviors to our learners, and like Rianne said as well, it's about getting that link into industry. You know, the traditional trades are doing very, very well at the moment, and because of that, we're seeing a lot of young people come in and go, I want to be a carpenter, and we're having to say, well, is that it? You know, how far do you want to go with this? There are other options. You know, have you thought about carpentry going into site management? Have you thought about going into surveying after that? So we're having to talk about not just doing advice and guidance about courses, we're having to really sell the careers and doing almost lifelong advice and guidance and saying that your maths and English, your perspective here, you need to do a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year journey, not just come in and get your ticket and go and earn the money quickly. So that's something we're having to look at. I think something else that it needs to be considered is the local area. In particularly where I am, we are surrounded by Hinkley Point and new build. We don't have that access to MMC. We have to travel for that. You have to kind of take in the consideration the local social mobility. You know, a lot of people don't travel a lot wider than Western. It's quite a nice little part of the country, but because of all that new build, MMC is something it's a little bit, you know, a little bit different. So I'll go back to one of my original statements: is if you want people as industry come to the training provider and say, look, this is a pathway. Colleges are very keen to support those pathways into these areas, but we're all going at 10 to the dozen with our own kind of targets and objectives. We just seem to miss each other at key opportunities. We could provide you with hundreds of individuals, and like you said, talking about it's not just about being on site, it's being in a professional industry. It could be on a fast moving production line, but those skills are still there. So I think there's a few things that we need to look at a slightly wider picture to be able to square that circle.
Thanks, Ben, and then over to the rest of you around sort of, you know, the skills that you think are required, the new skills required for the industry, particularly from your housing background. So, Chris, you want to come in? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it's to do with attitude. I think both Ben and Rianne have touched on the skill set and how people approach what they're doing. I think there's also generational change, and we look at the younger workforce versus the slightly older workforce and what they expect. And I think a lot of it's around adaptability, open-mindedness, and patience. There's a huge push in today's world to have everything right now, and actually sometimes we've just got to accept that change takes time to make happen. And MMC, you know, it's not all modern, but it's evolving. And if we're going to truly change the way we deliver things, then we have got to be, to a degree, patient. And I think the workforce of tomorrow has to also learn to be adaptable. Not many jobs that we're all doing today existed when we were born, let alone possibly even 10 years ago. And people are continuously evolving. I'm certainly not doing the job I was doing 10 years ago, not even the job I was doing 5 years ago, actually, if the truth be known. So we all evolve. And I think that we've all got to just be patient, looking for the right direction of change, be adaptable and open-minded to how that can happen. And I think the skills that are required to evolve in that manner will follow that trajectory if we remain open-minded. Yeah, that's my view on it.
Thank you. Mark, John, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, from our perspective, we're having the same struggles of recruiting in all areas of the business. I really want to see qualifications that can support not only the on-site installation, which I know the CIA standard does, but also looking at, you know, how we can support qualifications within the factory setting. You know, there just doesn't seem to be anything available at the moment, you know, and I think there's real opportunity to develop new qualifications and new standards that will support, you know, the new industry of MMC. I think Chris just touched on it. You know, there's jobs that are getting created through need and necessity that haven't existed before, and there's real opportunity within MMC, particularly with how much you can change from one discipline to the next. So like for a prime example, you know, we've got people who come into our business as a production operative with absolutely no experience whatsoever and are now approaching production line manager status, you know, and that's something that the younger generation probably don't understand or even know about. So I think there's definitely, the colleges are an absolute necessity to support the sort of understanding of young people's views on what MMC is and where they can go in it. You know, they don't necessarily have to follow the traditional route of site joiner and then progressing through the various levels on site. They could swap across and go into the manufacturing side of the businesses or into the design elements of the business. So, you know, there's real opportunity for people if they want it.
Yeah, certainly from our side of things, we're very keen to see more women in the MMC area where it isn't a case of sort of brute force. There's a lot of skill, there's a lot of learning that we need to do there, and also how we recruit as well. I mean, at the moment, we want to raise the profile of building. I've been trying to do this for years. Building it's a really rewarding career. It's not what you do if you don't get a degree or you don't do this and the other. And a lot of people either come out of college going, really don't know what to do, and end up working in call centers. That seems to be a sort of default at the moment. It's certainly, why can't we be recruiting the people who might end up defaulting into a call center, into an MMC environment, and it's not just about the sort of manufacture of it, it's the ongoing maintenance as well. So there's a lot of skills that need to be learnt, and we need people to sort of invest in that side as well and see, okay, we got this shift to MMC alongside traditional construction. We've got this 2025 targets for zero carbon. How are we ready for it? Probably not. They ask a lot of people, they won't know what's going on in 2025, don't know what's happening tomorrow. So yeah, let's see if we can help people out there.
Great, thank you. And there's a couple of things to pick up from that. So Rhiannon hinted that, you know, one of the things Moby does, we hold school challenges. We literally from sort of, and it can include primary, but it's normally 11 to 25-year-olds. So that's primary, secondary, further higher education, about the built environment. And my reasons to be cheerful is that, you know, young people really get the built environment. And actually, they get quite excited by it. So it links back to Chris's purpose point. You know, if you want to change people's lives and create better places, well, we've learned from COVID that housing is a really good way of doing that. And if you get housing wrong, it creates problems. But if you get it right, it's great for people's mental health and well-being. And actually, if you want to do something about carbon emissions, well, 40% of our carbon emissions come from the built environment. So again, something really good you can do. And actually, there's a whole purpose-driven aspect. So maybe just picking up that point, what is it about MMC you think might address both the attractiveness issue, and we know we have an issue in construction that is not a deeply attractive sector for young people at the moment, that's currently construed, and also on that retention piece, because we know that I think a lot, you know, I think correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but a lot of people who leave college with a construction qualification don't then go on into construction. We don't even retain them as they leave college, let alone, you know, long term in the industry. So have you got any thoughts around sort of that aspect, what MMC might help in terms of retention and also attraction in the first place? I
mean, do you want to go, Ben?
No, you go. It's fine.
Fight amongst yourselves. I'm just going to leave you to it.
I think what I'm really pleased to see, and I love what Mark is doing, and you know, and I echo things that what Chris has said. And there are some big offsite manufacturers out there that have got these on-site training hubs and these training academies, and you know, they are starting to look at people from outside of industry. And I think if you can successfully recruit somebody from a disadvantaged background who's got the right attitude, and you put that time and energy into training them and developing them, then that's going to solve your problem of retention, because I feel like they're going to be so grateful and so loyal because of the amount of time that you've spent with them. I recently am undertaking a big direct deployment piece for a big MMC manufacturer, and it's 134 roles, the majority of which they're taking from an unskilled background. And I've got to say, it's probably one of the most rewarding pieces of recruitment that I've ever done. And this wasn't just young people wanting to come into the sector. this was people that have got separate careers or different careers, but want to do something different, and they've just got that attitude, to that real desire to kind of change their lives and to start afresh. So I think if you can demonstrate that you really care about these people, and go back to what Chris said about giving them a purpose, that will resolve your retention issue, as well as, you know, that I feel like the culture in MMC is much softer than it is in the construction sector. And I think women will feel more safe there. People from ethnic minorities will probably feel more safe there. There's a lot of inspirational leaders within MMC that are reinforcing change and really trying to drive that change forward, just like Mark with Moby, and then Gaynor at the Offsite Alliance. They're doing some great work, and people like that are quite inspiring, and you kind of want the younger generation to be looking up to people like that.
Okay, who's next?
It's quite interesting, some of the language used about, you know, the MMC is a softer, you know, has a more approach in a safer environment there. And I'm just thinking that, you know, the statement you made is a lot of learners do finish college, and we do everything we can to stop them kind of disappearing into the ether. It's having that bridge into industry. You know, think about what that experience is for an individual to have their first real insight of industry. The other thing is agreeing what Chris is saying, is investing in those people, spending that time to help those learners make that transition into it. And that's a big commitment from an employer. You have to take on someone who has no skills, no understanding about the industry. You have to watch them like a hawk, and you have to, you know, work on their behaviors and attitudes to mold them. But that time and effort pays off in the long run. It you know, it will impact on your retention. If you give a young person aspirations, give them a career plan, it's not come in and you're going to do this for the rest of your life. You're going to do this and this and this and this. It becomes exciting. It's not a job, it's a career. So helping learners to bridge that gap from college to the workplace, I think is a big investment that needs both parties to play a bigger part in.
Jump in quickly. I do also think there needs to be some work done around just touching on the career pathways again. I think the kind of last published articles on the matter were in kind of 2017, 2018. I don't think people know where to go sometimes, or what options are available to them. So I think it's really important to start getting that out there and to be spoken about more. And then also people don't know where to go to get trained in MMC, and that needs to be much more clear as well.
Thanks, Jan. Chris, you talked about purpose, and actually the fact, I think you said you hadn't lost anybody since you started. And so have you seen how that sort of connection and giving people that, and I think you said the importance of seeing the end product as well. Has all of that helped? That clearly has helped you to retain people and attract people into your company.
Yes, I think it's a lot of it's to do with culture. A lot of it's about, mentioned previously, about purpose. I think it's also about, because we're quite a pioneering business, we're developing things that haven't been developed before. We're having to bring in people from different industries, from different sectors, to solve problems that we didn't know if we could actually solve. And I think that makes it quite exciting when you're challenging people. And I think that in its own right creates this level of motivation and excitement. And one of the things I was actually then going to pivot on to talk about is beyond retention, but attracting people to the industry. I think we as an industry have to step up. I think we as an industry have to create a new brand. I think we've got to remove the prefab perceptions that came with time gone by. I think we've actually now got to align ourselves with other industries, with technology industries, with automotive and aerospace industries and precision engineering industries, and actually stop being what could be or is deemed by many outside of it a relatively cottage industry. We've now actually got to step up and in many respects collectively, side by side, enhance our brand as a group, rather than us individually trying to increase our own brand value. So yeah, I think there's a lot around the colleges, the university courses. We're doing a lot of work with with at a intern level with UCL and Stanford and our US office in Seattle. And we're starting to create this sort of continuous learning, adoption of education from academia, trying to understand how we can solve problems in a slightly different way. And I think that becomes quite inspiring internally as a business, and people want to be part of that journey. So I think the external, attracting people to the industry, and the internal culture, purpose, and creating an environment for change are two very, very important aspects of this whole discussion.
Brilliant, thank you. Mark, John, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree again with Chris. I seem to be doing this quite a bit, but you know, I think, you know, the challenges that we face as a business are very, very similar. You know, I think in order to really to drive what we're doing, you know, I think we do need to get the knowledge of what we're doing out there. You know, we take a lot of people from aerospace and other manufacturing companies, and the challenge, the very challenge, because we, you know, as Chris just alluded to, you know, we're doing something that hasn't been done before. There's no blueprint to follow, and it's not easy at times, and I think that provides a really sort of challenging and rewarding environment. But I suppose the difficulty is getting that information across. That MMC is that type of, you know, technical and challenging environment, but also if you want a career that you just want to be like a construction worker, we can also offer that as well, you know. So you don't necessarily have to be driven to a management level. You can come in later on in your career and work in a warm, stable factory rather than out on site, you know. So, and utilize the skills that they've developed over their lifetime as well. So, you know, I think there's opportunities right across the board, not just for young people, but also for the older generation as well.
Yeah, likewise, I agree. Chris saying we shake off the prefab thing. We've got to step up, really get that sort of knowledge out there that you know, it's a force to be reckoned with, the MMC. It's not a case of, you know, it's different. Of course, it's different, but it's actually, I like to think it's better. So yeah, if we can recruit people just based on the fact that, yeah, that it's a career, it's not a job, and there's a, you know, that people look for that. Building has this boom and bust sort of approach. I've been through many recessions, and it's difficult to pay the mortgage when you're sort of bouncing around like that. But we want people saying, actually, no, this is a career, this is a stable profession, and I think people want that.
Yeah, that's something I picked up. So that whole point about career and pathways, and it's funny, even within traditional construction, what often gets hidden is the fact that people who start, you know, literally at the shop floor can end up being the managing director, if not CEOs of some of these companies. There's incredible vertical ability to climb within manufacturing, but actually, and that's uncelebrated in the traditional sector. We should celebrate that more. But actually, within the MMC side, it is clear that the conditions you create mean the workforce can expand. It can be different people. So a factory which doesn't move around, where they actually want people to stay with them for a long period of time and develop their careers and develop, is very different to the current model. And that is demonstrably bringing in people who haven't come in before. So Ilka, for example, 35% female workforce in their factory without really trying, because they've just created these conditions which make a sector which is not attractive, much more attractive. We're sort of running out of time, so I'm going to ask a couple more questions. I'll finish with asking you to summarise, you know, in what your one key thing you want to see change. But I wanted to pick up on Ben's point. I think it's really important, this point of connectivity between industry and academia, and between, you know, the people who want the jobs in the industry and the industry. I was at UK Construction Week, and the amount of times people looking for apprenticeships came up to me and saying, you know, who's doing apprenticeships? And I'd be approached from the other direction saying, we're desperate to get apprentices. There's this disconnect. So what can we do practically to try and solve that disconnect? I think you've been talking about it, Ben, a bit already, but how do we connect industry to the learning environment?
I think there's multi levels that you could do. Is just to throw your doors open to the colleges, things like work experience programs, site tours, giving up your time to be able to come and do professional discussions with our learners. just come around and see what some of these young people are capable of. We have quite a few employers who will regularly come around and go, oh, I like what you're doing, tell me more about you. And then off the back of that, we'll offer an apprenticeship or at least a traineeship or some experience there with them, or sponsorship to try and get them into employment. And equally is any colleges to throw the doors open to you guys as well, and to invite you in to speak on panels to help shape the curriculum. You have a say in what the curriculum looks like. If not, we'll just keep churning out brickies and carpenters because that's what local intelligence tells us, you know. So go to your college and say, I want to be part of this and I want to help shape your curriculum. And it is very much a two-way street. And, you know, it's a very strong and powerful relationship. You know, the college will hold a lot of other employers and connections and forums for you to be able to have, you know, for you to get access to as well. So it's not just, I'm going to go and speak to some 16-year-olds about what it's like to be in industry. There's a lot of skills and connections that you can utilize to support your business as well. Some of the biggest examples is in our motor vehicle sector. We were talking about giving video presentations to customers. A lot of people people who don't speak English is their first language. We use our media students to be able to produce, you know, foreign language instructional videos and induction packs as well. So, you know, don't be afraid to utilize that in the college if the college is willing to work with you in that kind of pattern.
Thanks, Ben. Anybody else want to come in on that particular point? Rianne?
I think that it's definitely got better. I think if you think back to 4 years ago, I think what the CITB were kind of giving out in relation to construction training, it didn't even include modular construction 4 years ago. So we have come quite a long way. We are getting better. So let's pat ourselves on the back for that for now. Any training that was specific to kind of the modular sector was always done on site, and I'm still really pleased to see that some of that is done on site. But the issue that you kind of get there is that the younger people don't necessarily know about it because it's all happening within that sort of factory environment. Moby has been sharing. I keep mentioning Moby. But they've been sharing a lot of courses and training providers, and I'm glad to see the likes of Western College and Dudley College and Wolverhampton University kind of shouting out more about what it is that they're doing. And everyone knows about Edinburgh Napier. I mean, they do the timber frame. However, there is still a definite lack of industry. You know, I do speak to people that have graduated from Edinburgh Napier with a design in timber frame design qualification, and they can't find a job, which is madness to me because I've got about 50 or 60 design roles, timber frame design roles that I need to fill. So there is more work to be done. And I do think it's going to come from collaboration. I do think the MMC sector is more collaborative than traditional construction. And the more that we keep banging the drum about MMC and collaborate more with the likes of the Offsite Alliance, with the likes of Moby, with the likes of the colleges, then I think we're on the right trajectory is what I'm trying to say. We'll get there, but we just need to keep voicing our opinions and getting it out there.
Thanks, Rianne. Any rest, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from our perspective, we're working a lot with the colleges, you know, not just our local colleges around the factory in Leeds, but also up and down the country. You know, one of the things that we aspire to is that each new site that we have a new apprentice on there. I think one of the difficulties that I found personally is, you know, I'm a real believer in qualifications and giving somebody the opportunity to grow. And what we're trying to do at the moment is shoehorn qualifications into something that doesn't really fit because there isn't a specific qualification for what we do. So we do find it quite difficult to deliver qualifications. Like I say, we're an accredited centre with EAL and we use their qualifications because it's the best fit for what we do. What would be great is to have an actual MMC qualification structure and multiple qualifications for different areas, because I think you know, every company does it in a slightly different way, and you know, I don't think you can go down the you know, one shoe fits all. So I think it's I think there's opportunities, particularly for companies like ourselves, to really get involved with CITB and the colleges to try and sort of trailblaze some of these qualifications and some of these standards, because ultimately I think the generations that are at college now are going to be the future generations that are going to build the MMC world. So it's really important to start to build that knowledge and that understanding of MMC and their opportunities and what a career they can have within that environment at this stage whilst they're still at college. So I'd be absolutely open for any support that we could get and anything we could be involved in to try and steer that in the right direction.
I wasn't intending to be a plug for Moby, but we've worked with Pearson to get some MMC content on their construction and built environment BTEC as optional units, but we've literally just had this month approved a certificate in modern methods of construction, which will be available in 2023, and IFA have approved it for apprenticeship as well, so you can draw on the apprenticeship levy. So hopefully, Mark, we've answered your question, although we're disappointed it's not September 22, but it's September 23. But yeah, there will be something coming in on the horizon, hopefully. John and Chris, and then I'll go on to the final question. So anything you want to say on this, or shall I just move on? Chris?
I think a lot of it's already been said, but I think just agreeing with Mark, it's my turn to agree with Mark. It's difficult to find training that suits all MMC businesses, and actually what we all need to do is get together and agree I think Mark Farmer once talked about 80% of what we all do is the same and 20% of it's our IP. We all need to agree what that 80% looks like so that we can steer the academies, the colleges and the universities in that direction to give us 80% of what we need, and then we train the other 20%. And I think that's possibly a slightly different way of looking at the same.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. And go on, John.
Just from Marianne's sort of point of view, if you're struggling to find designers, are they designing the same 80% over and over again, but can we help them by providing the MMC solutions which will then free up their time to be doing the bigger picture, the scheme planning, the environmental issues, the risk management side of things. So yeah, I think we have a role to play in making your life easier, I hope.
And speaking from maybe an offsite alliance, we'd be very happy to convene a sort of discussion around what the 80% looks like and sort of agreement on that, because I think that will help everybody. So that's an open offer. So final question, really. I'll ask each of you, what one thing would you like to see change in relation to MMC skills? So yeah, promote MMC learning or to improve the learning. I'll just throw it open.
I think that the number one for me would be to get that synergy in relation to the job functions across the sector, sort of job functions and responsibility to be similar. I mean, I know they're not all going to be the same, but there seems to be a very difference of opinion from what an operative is, what an unskilled operative is, what a semi-skilled operative is. It would be good to try and get some synergy across the sector as a whole, and then obviously a career path, I think is one of the most important things that needs to be done.
Yeah, for me, I think I've already alluded to it. I think to have a suite of qualifications or standards that we could draw upon would be excellent. And give people a real opportunity to sort of leave school and potentially go to a college and actually learn about an MMC and then come to a business like ours. I think that would be a really good opportunity to try and promote MMC.
Chris?
Yeah, mine's again very similar to Mark, and I think from my perspective, through my lens, it's improving the perception of the industry to the outside world to allow us to bring in top talent from other industries. And I think we can retrain and reskill, and we can bring in talent and train and skill, and we need to widen the net. We need more. As Jan said at the very beginning, there's a distinct shortage of people in this industry. Well, there's a lot of very talented people in other industries as well that could come in and easily pick up the reins and learn to do what we need them to do. So yeah, I think we need to, as an industry, stand up there and tell the world who and what we are, and try and improve the talent that we're bringing into it.
Yeah, and for me, just like Chris, it's that image of what construction is, and really get that out there and sell that to people. This is a career pathway. It moves at a rate of knots, and it's so technologically advanced. This is an exciting career for anyone to be part of. come and be a part of that.
John, you get the final word.
Yeah, just say, well, I'm old-fashioned. If you can't measure it, how do you improve it? So we need to see what we've got, and then how do we recruit if we don't know what we're actually looking for out there? So yeah, we need some more recognizable qualifications, and give the employers a chance of sort of getting the right person in.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. If this was a live event, I would ask the audience to thank the panel, because I think it's been an excellent panel, even though we've violently agreed at times, but I think it's been really interesting. But I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you for those who've joined us to listen this afternoon. I hope you found it interesting. If you want to follow up, then Bristol Housing Festival or MOBI or YTKO or Workforce for the Future, follow any of those. And there's more information. If you're particularly interested in the modern methods and small and medium enterprise work going on, then just contact YTKO. But otherwise, thank you very much, panel. Been a really good afternoon, excellent hour. We haven't put the worlds to rights, but I think we've narrowed down some of the problems. So thank you, and watch out for Bristol Housing Festival's next event.
Thank you, Mark.